Okay, so hopefully, hopefully a number of you are kind of at this stage, right? So this is my picture frame. I've modified it so it'll fit the size of my picture, and I changed the parameters so that the art space was a bit smaller. What I did discover was that I forgot when I did this to do parameters, so I just changed the measurements. So what I need to do is I need to export that now into Adobe, right? So what you have to do to export into Adobe is, and I show this in the other video, is because this is a good example here. I can't just export my sketch of the stand because it's got these holes in it that I made later, right? So what I want to export is I want to export this shape. So if what I need to do is I need to be able to get Fusion to identify that shape. Right now, because the sketches are on, when I hover over it, what it's actually identifying is the sketch on top of that shape. So that's why before I try to export the shape, I turn off sketches. And so now I can see that when it's highlighting the shape I want, and if I right click, I can create a new sketch, right? And so I go new sketch, finish sketch. And now what's happened is in the sketches, there's a brand new sketch down here, and it is the sketch of my side piece with the holes cut out, right? So what I want to make sure I do is rename that right away. I'm going to call it side stand 2. Whoops, let's try that again. Rename side stand 2. And now that's the shape I'm going to export into Adobe Illustrator, okay? So I've already done that for the other parts. So the thing is my outside frame and inside frame are going to export as two different parts because they're not connected. So what I'm going to do is to export it, so I've already done these ones. I already made sketches of these ones. So I'm going to go to the outside frame sketch, and I'm going to go save as DXF. And I'm going to make sure it's called outside frame. Yeah, sure. I think I've already, and then I'm going to do the same thing to inside frame, okay? So DXF will save all that measurement information. So now I go over here to Adobe Illustrator. And now what I suggest in the video is that you just open those up, all right? So if I go open outside frame, so there's a couple really, I've discovered through trial and error, that there's a couple really important things you need to do at this stage, okay? First, when you try to open it, it'll probably say scale. You don't want to scale because you want to keep the original dimensions. So make sure you click original size and it's a 1:1 scale. Now the thing I hadn't realized, I've been messing with the last couple days, when you export a DXF file from Fusion 360, it actually exports a whole bunch of different layers. And if you just import that into Adobe Illustrator, it imports like 20 different layers, and it makes it really hard to then export it for the laser. What I hadn't realized is that Kunjut goes through and fixes all the files at his end, doesn't tell any of us. So what I want to do is get us to be sending Kunjut files that don't need fixing. So what I've discovered is you have to make sure you click merge layers. Okay, so that'll import your entire shape as one layer, okay? So you'll need to import them both. So there's my outside frame, and now I'm going to go open inside frame. So now I've got them both opened, and I'm sure the scale is correct. Now I need to go and make myself a new file that I'm going to paste them into, and it needs to be you want it to be A2 size. A2 is the size of those posters over there. That's the size of the bed of the laser cutter, okay? So the dimensions are 594 millimeters by 420. And I'll put that on the board, okay? So I've now created myself a new file, and I know that it's the size I want for the laser. So all I have to do now is go over to my outside frame, go Command or Control A to select everything. Can you see, it looks like it's a different size in these two pictures, right? That's because the work plane is a different size. But now I can actually see how big my picture frame is going to be on the laser cutter bed. So now, because now I can start to think about how to lay everything out. Okay, so I'm going to go get my inside frame. I'm going to go Command A, Command C, Command V. Oops. Wait, was it the inside frame I did before? I can't remember. There we go, there's my outside frame. Okay, and so that's what you want to start with. And you can see over here in the layers, right, I've actually got, I think I can delete that layer. To delete a layer, you need to select it. It's taken me a while to figure this out in Adobe, because in Affinity, you just right-clicked. You got to select it, go up to the 3 lines, and then go delete, and it'll delete that layer. So you can see I basically got 2 different groups here, right? And I've got 2 different paths, one for the inside and one for the outside. Okay, so now what I want to do is we need to make sure we connect up the inside and the outside, right? So that they're connected, and you can connect them up with any way you like, right? I'm going to show you how to connect them up with artwork, okay? So the next step is I need to go and find some artwork that I want to put on there. So there's lots of ways to do it. I'm going to go for a mountain range. And I don't want to have an image with lots of color in it. So what I find the most useful is to go to Tools and then look for line drawings, right? So now I can find a line drawing that I want to use in my kind of artwork. So let's go with, so I actually downloaded this one already. So what I can do is, now what I don't want to do is I don't want to put my picture on the same layer as what I'm doing. Okay, I want to keep this layer. In fact, I could even click up here. Is that how I rename it? I think maybe I double click. Yeah, so I could even call this my main layer. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to make a new layer, and I'm going to drag it below the main layer. So this is where I'm going to paste my image. So now I can go File, and in this case, I'm not opening it. I'm placing it on the work plane. And I think somewhere in here I should have a mountain range image, hopefully. Oh, looks like I maybe downloaded it on a different computer. Let's go download that quickly. So let's grab that one. And if it's difficult to download, another good way is just to do a screen grab of what you want. Let's try that again. So Command-Shift-4, and you can just save a copy of that onto your desktop. So I'm going to go File, Place. Let's go look on my desktop. Oh, there's all of the images, and we'll go Place. So this is, the thing about this is on a different layer, so it's not going to mess up now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and resize this. Get my selection tool. So what I want to try and do is, another good trick is, before you start messing with all of that stuff, is to group these 2 together so you're not accidentally moving stuff all the time. Okay. So what I need to do is I need my mountain range to overlap both of these frames. Okay, now this is not the laser. In order for the laser to know where to go, it needs a single line path. This is not a single line path. Okay, so the first thing we got to do is we can engrave this. So we can do a shallow burn with the laser and engrave it so that it shows up on the word. Does that make sense? But first, we have to vectorize it. This is a bitmap. This is still a ... image. So I have to go over here, and I've got to use the image trace tool. I tend to just go for default. And then when you click expand, you should be able, that should turn into a vector image. Okay, now I'm not sure mine did, but that should work. Oh, hang on, if we go ungroup. All right, so we will play with that a bit later, but so that's the idea, is you want to vectorize the image. Once it's vectorized, you should be able to just go and select and delete any parts. So for example, I don't want this part. Okay. I'll just quickly get rid of those. So what we have to do now is combine these two and make a shape that this will fit onto. So what I need to make sure I go back and click on my main layer, because now I want to be drawing lines that'll fit on the main layer. I'm going to go get my pen tool, and I'm going to draw a path that connects that. Now, it's got the black on it because I've got my fills set to black. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my stroke color so I can actually see it. Okay? So now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. And you can see I've still got my pen tool on, so I have to hit escape to make that go away. Go away. Go away. There we go. So we'll do the same thing on this side. Draw a path like that. Get rid of that. So what I need to do now, and this is the part that I was really excited to find out about Adobe Illustrator, is we're going to turn this off so we can see what's happening. So now we need to connect all of this together so it's one shape. So, and I show this in the other tutorial, but the easiest way to do that, and believe me, I've gone through about 5 different ways to do this, is to select everything, go and get your shape builder tool, and then you can just shape builder tool, you select one shape and you just drag it into the other shapes, and it will just connect them for you. By far the easiest way I've ever seen to connect shapes. And now I turn this back on. So now what I've got is this will cut out the cardboard in the background and this will engrave the artwork on it. Make sense? So the last step is to get your direct selection tool and to add some colors. So the way it works on the laser, and those of you who did the clock project might remember this. So the first thing you want to make sure you do is make sure you don't have any extra layers on there. So what I'm doing is I'm just clicking around on all of these and I'm hitting backspace, because you can see I'm hitting backspace and there's still lines there. So now that the lines are disappearing, I know that there's just one line. Honestly, I don't know, when you import from Fusion, it just imports multiple layers. So now that I've got one line for each, I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go to stroke, and I'm going to click on my paint palette, I'm going to click on my RGB thing, and now what I want to do is I want my inside to be entirely red. What the laser cutter will do is it will cut the red lines first. So you want to cut the red line, the inside first, because if you cut the outside lines first, then this part is no longer connected to the main material and there's a little bit of movement. And so the inside line may not get cut quite as accurately. Okay, so we've got the inside line cut first. Then we're going to go and select these lines. And again, I'm just going to go through and make sure that I've deleted all the extra lines on top. So I can go Command Z to undo that. And we're going to go to stroke. And this one we're going to make green. Green is the next level. So once it's cut red, it'll cut green. And then we'll do the final outside line here. And we'll make that green. So this is what you have to do when you are sending to the laser cutter, okay? Black is engraved. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this to Kunjut and ask him to cut this out now so we can have a look at it. But this is, so this, the green and the reds will get cut out of the material. The black will get engraved. All right? So I have a very similar video to this already